All right, guys, good morning. Hopefully, you already did your daily math review on some scratch paper or a whiteboard or, something. If you have a notebook, you're doing them in. And so I want to go over the solutions. You notice the first two I did are from combining like terms from last week's test. For the most part, everybody did a really good job on that test. Still the same thing I was talking about in the Zoom meeting about the common mistakes. Still, lots of you made those common mistakes. So I just encourage you as we're getting into these newer things and these algebra ideas and concepts, you've got to start slowing down. Everything's not just multiplying numbers in your head anymore. We're done with elementary. We're on to middle school and high school maths. So it's time to slow down and put thought into what you're doing and work your steps. And there'll still be things you can do in your head, but we're getting to complicated things. So slow down and don't skip steps. Anyway, so combining like terms, I wanted to do a couple just to see if you guys remembered, because it's been 4 or 5 days since we've done math. So I've got 3y squared by itself here as its own term. There's nothing being multiplied to it, but it is being added to this whole term here, which when I look at it, I see that I have 3 being multiplied by 2 different terms that are inside these parentheses. This is one term, 4y squared, and 2 is another term. So the first thing I'm going to do is multiply 3 by the first term, and then I have to multiply 3 by the second term. And this is the part that a lot of people just missed on the test, even though I tried to remind y'all, you have to write it. And I'm going to do a shout out to Ella McDermott, because on her work that she turned in, she showed this step every time and she did not make any mistakes on the distributive property. So you go, Ella, you've got that down. So it pays to just take your time and show the steps. So when I do 3 times 4, I get 12y squared. When I do, and then this is minus, a lot of you were changing the sign, and I know when there's a negative sign out here, we get a little confused, but you need to be really careful to not change that sign. You can make, if this is a positive, anyway, well, we'll go into that later another time. Anyway, 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, so I've got 3y squared, and then it's time to combine like terms. And what I really wanted to see on your work is if you guys were doing this, like I showed you. And those of you who did submit your work, and I guess there was a bit of a miscommunication on that, I didn't see a lot of boxing, and most of the people who boxed got it. Mostly the people who got boxed got them right. Some people were still having trouble with positive and negative signs that were boxing them. But really, guys, until you guys are like acing every single one of these, you might need to do that, or at least underline them or something. So now I know I have a positive 12 and a positive 3, which just gives me 15y squared, and I still have my minus 6. So this is my final answer on the first one. If you got 15y squared minus 6, then you were correct. These are from a game that we would have played if we were in class together last week. That's okay. All right, so then I threw in some decimals because, why not? You guys have to get used to using decimals. So again, this is distributive property needs to happen here. I need to take the 0.5 and multiply it by the x4 or x to the 4th, and then I need to multiply my 3 by it as well. So this just comes 0.5 times x to the 4th. I mean, we can't do anything about it. It's just, that's it. Until we know what x is, we can't do anything else. And then I have a minus, and so when I'm doing 0.5 times 3, if you need to come out here to the side and do, this kind of multiplication, that's fine, but just think about it. This is just half. What's half of 3? Half of 3 is 1.5 or 1.5, and just leave it as a decimal, plus 12. Okay, so now I have this is my x to the 4th. There's no other x to the 4ths, but then I have a negative 1.5 and a positive 12. These are just numbers that I can come. A lot of you guys in your final answers on the test just left numbers, 4 plus 7. And I'm like, why did we not add 4 plus 7? Whatever. So make sure you add the numbers if you have just numbers. They're called constants, okay? So I don't need to do anything to this. This is just going to be 0.5 x to the 4th. And then if I have 12 and I take away 1.5, I can do that mentally. If I have 12 and I take away 1, I have 11. If I take away half more, it's 10.5. And it's positive because the 12 is positive. and I'm just subtracting a smaller number from it. So you should have gotten 0.5 x to the fourth plus 10.5 is your answer. Now, these made you do a little bit of multiplying decimals because we need to remember that, but we also are still practicing that whole idea of evaluating expressions. So again, all the things we've learned now are all going to start kind of meshing together, especially as we get into this next module. So you just needed to rewrite this. If n was 0.9, I would write 1.4 times 0.9, right? And then this one down here, if it was 5.6 times, and if n was, I'm just going to set them up, 0.32. So you want to set them up. No calculators. I put that in the instructions. So hopefully everybody was honest and didn't do calculators because that's just not helping you practice your math skills. Oops. Okay, so now I'm going to do, 9 times 4, 36. Carry my 3, or regroup, 9 times 1, 9, and 12, or 9 and 3 more is 12. So again, there's one decimal place here, one decimal place here. So I go 2 decimal places over and your answer should be 1.26. Okay, be careful with those decimals. This is why we're practicing. You should be getting these right now. We've been doing this for a long time and you did them last year. Okay, and now I'm going to multiply again. 2 times 6 is 12. Regroup my 1. That's 10, and 1 more is 11. And then I'm going to do 3 times 6. Oh, I got to do my little placeholder here. It's 18. Regroup my 1. It's 15, and 1 more is 16. And then when I add 2, 9, 7, 1. Again, I have 1 decimal place here. I have 2 decimal places here. 1, 2, 3. Your answer should be 1.792. So if you're off by a decimal, you're still wrong. So this is why you really need to take the time, line them up, count, do your, well, you actually don't even have to line up the decimals. Just line up your your digits and count your decimals later and multiply. So hopefully you did well. I'm going to keep throwing these things at you and trying to make them a little more challenging each time. But let's go learn something new today. See you on the other side.